Did you know that Caligula, a Roman emperor, once declared war on the sea? Yes, you heard it right, the sea. This isn't a myth or an exaggerated tale but a startling truth from the annals of Roman history. In a display of sheer absurdity, Caligula commanded his battle-hardened soldiers to draw their swords and stab the sea waves, an act that left his men baffled, while providing us with a tantalizing glimpse into his eccentric rule. This bizarre act was just a glimpse of Caligula's eccentric rule. But how did this eccentric man rise to power? Let's take a step back. Born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, Caligula was the third son of a beloved Roman general. His childhood was marred by the dark shadows of political treachery and personal tragedies, yet against all odds he emerged, stepping onto the stage of power as a beacon of hope for Rome. His ascension was not a bloody coup but a peaceful transition. The ailing Emperor Tiberius, his adoptive grandfather, named him and his cousin co-heirs. When Tiberius passed away in 37 AD, Caligula became the sole emperor, as his cousin had died under suspicious circumstances. The people of Rome initially welcomed him with open arms, filled with hope for a reign that would bring prosperity and fairness. His charming demeanor and the promise of a new era sparked a wave of popularity that swept across the empire. His ascension to the throne was met with joy, but the happiness was short-lived. Shortly after his ascension, the once charismatic leader started showing signs of madness. Not long after being hailed as Rome's golden boy, an unexpected and severe illness struck Caligula. When he emerged, he was not the same man. His actions became increasingly erratic and unpredictable. He indulged in extravagant spending, draining the Roman treasury for his personal pleasures. From lavish parties to bizarre architectural projects, nothing was too grand for Caligula. His insatiable appetite for luxury knew no bounds. But it wasn't just his spending that struck fear in the hearts of the people. It was his unpredictable and often cruel behavior. He would execute citizens on a whim, often for no reason at all. His unpredictable nature kept the entire empire on edge, never knowing when his wrath might fall upon them. His actions instilled a deep sense of fear and uncertainty that permeated every corner of the empire. As his madness escalated, so did his tyranny. At the height of his madness, Caligula's rule was marked by cruelty and absurdities. One of the most memorable acts of his reign was his self-declaration of divinity. Driven by his own delusions, Caligula proclaimed himself a living god. He demanded worship and insisted on his divine status with a fervor that was alarming even by the standards of Roman emperors. In an act of sheer absurdity, he even appointed his favorite horse, Incitatus, as a consul. This was a prestigious position typically held by men of high social standing. It's a move that demonstrated not only his disregard for Roman tradition and political norms, but also his eccentricity and complete detachment from reality. His tyranny was not just confined to eccentric acts, though. Caligula was notorious for his cruel punishments for minor offenses. He was known to execute or exile anyone he perceived as a threat, often on a whim. His unpredictable and savage nature made his reign one of the most feared in Roman history. His sadistic tendencies led to countless unnecessary deaths and a reign of terror that left a deep scar on the Roman Empire. Caligula's rule was marked by a dangerous mix of madness and power. Unchecked and unhinged, he was a tyrant in the truest sense. His reign was a reign of terror and madness, one that the Romans would never forget. But like all tyrants, Caligula's reign came to a brutal end. It was the year 37 AD and a conspiracy was brewing within the heart of the Roman Empire. Discontented members of the Praetorian Guard, the Senate, and the Equestrian Order had had enough of Caligula's erratic rule, his grandiose whims, and his unpredictable wrath. Their grievances culminated in a violent coup. Caligula was assassinated, his life brutally snuffed out in a flurry of daggers. The news of his death was met with a wave of relief that swept across the empire. The citizens who had lived in fear under his reign now had a glimmer of hope for a more stable future. Yet, Caligula's legacy was far from forgotten. His rule became an infamous chapter in Roman history, a tale of unchecked power and the madness it can breed. And so ended the reign of Caligula, a reign marked by madness, cruelty, and eccentricities that would forever be etched in history.